wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
All right, welcome back to our program, Policing with You, right here on ZIZ Radio, where we broadcast on television. And also you can look at us on YouTube and Facebook every Thursday morning. Let me say good morning to two regulars. Regulars. I almost said two hosts, but that'll be incorrect, even though I would like to say so. So our guest this morning is Superintendent Cromwell Henry, and one of our rotating hosts is Superintendent Francis.
Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Pleasant good morning.
Good morning.
GQ.
Good morning.
Okay, welcome listeners to another featured program of Policing with You. And we have an important update for the general public before we get into the main discussion. The first update I would like to know is that for the general public to be aware of is a contingent comprising of police officers and soldiers left the Federation over the past weekend for St. Vincent and the Grenadines as part of a peacekeeping mission put together by the RSS, that's the Regional Security System. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines made a request to the RSS, and thousands of persons had to be evacuated from the northern side of the island following the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano. And we want to wish our men and women all the best, as well as all the troops heading to the territory from other islands. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the next important update I would like the general public to know is that the man who entered the Federation on May the 11, 2021 at Limekeel Bay has been charged by both the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force and the Custom and Excise Department. David Smith of Buckley's is 27 years old and was arrested following his release from the quarantine last week after testing negative for COVID-19. The police charged Mr. Smith on May the 28th for the offense of entering a port that is not recognized as an appropriate port of entry, and on May the 31st for the offense of entering the Federation without permission of the Ministry of National Security. And also, he was charged by the Custom and Excise Department on May the 30th for the offenses of failing to file a declaration with a proper officer, arriving in the Federation in a vessel at a place other than a notified place by the customs officer, failure to report directly to a customs or a police officer upon arrival in the Federation, and failure to produce a certificate of clearance. He has been remanded at the HMP prison. Okay, now to go straight into the discussion today.
If I may just add before you move on.
Yes, please, sir.
Superintendent, because I think a lot of persons, that is what they're more interested in is his COVID-19 status.
Yes.
We are pleased to announce that he's negative. His last test was negative. And so as a result of that negative test, he was discharged from quarantine. And that was when he came into police custody. So during the time he was in quarantine, that 14-day period, he was not in police custody until his quarantine ended, after he was cleared by the health authorities. So he's no threat to the Federation in terms of COVID-19 at this time.
Which is important.
Yes, that's important to get up there.
Yes, very important for the listeners.
Because that was the biggest scare that the country had. Did he slip into the country?
Was he positive?
Being positive and not noticed.
Yes.
So we are happy that he was not, and so he's not a threat in that regard.
Yes.
Yes, beautiful. We have with us today one of the representatives of the police force in the National COVID-19 Task Force, Superintendent Henry, to my right, who has been appearing on the show since the partial curfew have been put in place to keep us updated on the situation and to answer any relevant questions that comes from the general public. Now today we're going to have a discussion, as usual, for the general public to be enlightened. And the first question I would like to ask Superintendent Henry is that there's an update regarding the number of passengers a bus can carry. Can you tell us about the recent decision made regarding that?
Yes, well, thank you for that question. We would have had a bit of disquiet among the bus operators after the announcement of the reduction in the number of passengers that they're allowed to carry. It was reduced to 50% of their carrying capacity. And the bus drivers felt that it was not economical for them to operate at 50% capacity. But the decision was not really an economic decision, it was a health decision. However, given the case that they put forward in that all the seats would have in 2 passengers and there would be only 1 seat carrying 2 seats carrying 1 passenger, then it made sense to just make it even so that all the seats carry 2 passengers rather than have 3 seats carrying 2 passengers. That's the 6 persons, and 1 seat carrying 1 passenger to make the 7 person. We just put another person in that seat with 1 person and put another person at the front of the bus to make it even in all the seats. So the CMO has agreed and has revised that number. So rather than 50%, you're allowed to carry 2 passengers per seat or per row of seat in the vehicle. So that would bring them up to 9 passengers. So I think that should put them in a little better economic position so that they could still operate, even though at a reduced capacity. It's a balance.
Yes.
They're still able to make a smaller profit while not putting persons at unnecessary risk in terms of the spread of the virus. So we are thankful for that, and we ask that the bus operators cooperate with this compromise. You know, you ask for it, you got it. So just comply and not carry 15 passengers and have to be asked to put out and inconvenience those passengers who are in excess. For us, it's not about the excess passengers. It's about the risk that these passengers will be at, because they'll be more tightly crammed if you have 15 passengers as opposed to 9. And so your risk will be increased because you'll be in closer contact with the person next to you. And we know that there is a problem on public service vehicles in terms of the spread of the virus. We know that some of the known positive cases traveled on public service vehicles before they were identified as positive case. And so we know that is a threat right now. And we ask bus operators and the persons who use the bus service to be aware of this and really do all that you can to protect yourself. Wear your mask, sanitize, keep the windows open, and limit the number of persons that you're carrying on your bus.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. And thanks for the highlight with reference to buses. And we're going to move to ferries. Restrictions on ferries.
The restriction remain the same for ferries, that they can only carry 50% of their capacity. So whatever their maximum capacity is, if it is 300, then they're allowed to carry 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As you stated during your presentation on the NEOC emergency briefing last week, most persons and business operators are cooperating with what is required right now. However, we see some persons speeding to get off the road when it is almost curfew time. And you mentioned that some persons are still jeopardizing the health of themselves and others by not adhering to the restrictions. Describe some of the challenges in that area for the listeners today.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned speeding to get off the road. That is a real problem. At 11:15, 10:30, you see a mad rush on the streets. In fact, I think it was night before last, there was an accident in Cairn, just outside Cairn by Brighton, that one the driver ended up in the hospital. And I'm certain this accident occurred at 11 p.m.
Trying to get home.
at a long stretch of road at Brighton. So they were nowhere close to home. And when the driver ended up in the hospital, the vehicle in front stopped because it was 3 vehicles, one stopped and another one stopped behind it, and the third vehicle ran into the back of that. Clearly, she was in such a hurry to get home that didn't realize that the vehicles in front had stopped. Ran into the back of the vehicle, caused significant damage and injury, caused all that inconvenience. So these things can be avoided if you only give yourself sufficient time to get home. driving at a reasonable speed. If you know you live St. Paul's or Detby, you cannot leave the establishment in town at 10 to 11 or quarter to 11.
You're not going to be
because you're going to be forced to rush to get home for 11.
Right.
And so we expect that you will leave at least by 10:30. At least, if you have to go to St. Paul's or Detby, at least by 10:30 you should be on your way. And so you'll get enough time to get home. And that's the problem that we are having. People are staying out as close as possible to 11 and then rush home to get home before 11. And most times it doesn't work. They end up reach after 11, get stopped on the way or get in an accident.
With your permission,
Yes, sir.
Is that a ticketable offense?
If you're speeding, yes.
No, I mean if you're being caught
If
on
you're
the
being
road.
caught after it's not ticketable, it's arrestable.
Oh, okay.
If you're being caught on the road after the curfew time,
Okay.
it's arrestable.
Okay.
Right, so
Superintendent?
try to get home early.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have made arrests, so we not something that we're happy. We're happy to do because when we do that, we put in officers at unnecessary risk and increase the risk of everybody coming into contact with each other. So it's best for everybody that persons just comply and follow the order.
Right.
Go home on time.
Okay.
And programs such as this is just sensitize the general public.
Yes.
Yes.
Police is out there all the time,
Indeed.
and they must try to abide by the law. It's for all our benefits.
Indeed.
Okay, Superintendent, the World Cup qualifying matches scheduled to be played at Warner Park tomorrow. And what do people need to know about the protocols for these games?
Well, the first thing that persons need to know is that these games will be played under some strict protocols.
Strict.
The first protocol is players and officials only allowed in the stadium. In fact, the last set of regular SRNOs that were published, I think is number 14 of 2021, specifically restricts persons attending contact sport games. Football, we know, is one of the major contact sporting activity that we have here. And so all sporting activities where the players come into close contact with each other, such as football and basketball and netball, those games are restricted. Well, persons are restricted from attending those games. They are restricted generally, but one exception has been made. Well, two exceptions have been made for two upcoming matches. One, which will be played tomorrow, I think that's St. Kitts versus Guyana, and another one on the 8th of June, Guyana versus Puerto Rico. Exceptions were made for those two. They can be played, but only if officials and players are allowed in the stadium. So it means that no spectators will be allowed at these events. So we ask for the cooperation of the public. You could stay home and view it virtually. The games will be broadcast on the SKNFA website or the Facebook page, and I'm certain other media houses would bring the games live. We had a problem with persons going into Carnival City and climbing onto the roof to look at the games from the roof. That would not be allowed. It's dangerous. You could hurt yourself going up or down, or even while you're up there. Persons go in the parking lot on Lozak Road, stand on other people's vehicles sometimes, or use ladders and sit on the walls. That will not be allowed. Again, it's dangerous. So we ask persons to really stay home and get some Wi-Fi and look at the games on your devices. Yes. If you don't have Wi-Fi at home, find the nearest Wi-Fi hotspot and make yourself comfortable.
Prepare.
If you're not at home, you're in town, I think there's a hotspot at Port Zante. You go sit at the bench at Port Zante
And look at it.
Free Wi-Fi, the city Wi-Fi around Bastia that is free.
Okay.
I think Cable has a free Wi-Fi service in town.
Yes.
You could log on one of those services and look at the games.
Okay.
Okay, and piggybacking from those advice with the World Cup qualifier matches, restrictions with reference to contact sports in general. Can you indicate the general restrictions that are taking place, that are in place at the moment for contact sports?
Well, contact sports are prohibited. No person shall attend, host, play any of those sporting games, except for the World Cup qualifiers on June 4th and on June 8th. So the order is a blanket restriction on all contact sports, except for the qualifying matches, which will be conducted under some strict protocols. The players are coming in, they're in quarantine, they remain in a bubble. They're not allowed to come in contact with anybody else outside of their bubble. Even the national team is in quarantine at this time, and they would remain in their bubble. They cannot come in contact with anybody, even after the matches. They cannot go home when the game finished. They have to go back to their quarantine. So they're home, and they have to be in quarantine. That is the strict guidelines under which they are allowed to function. We don't want to take a risk of they coming into contact with the overseas players, and then they come in contact with their families at home. That would be really not a wise thing to do. Have visitors come in, have our local players come into contact with them, and then they go home. You see the dangers there.
Right.
So to prevent any mishaps, everybody is quarantined before, during, and after the games.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I think shortly after the games, our team will be traveling, so they would not have any chance at all to go home.
Right. So it's a sacrifice. It's
Yes, it's a sacrifice.
It's a
From quarantine
to the airport,
Yes.
straight to wherever their next destination is.
Yes.
Okay, GQ, can we take a break?
With your permission, before, because when we return, I want to make sure we give our callers enough time, because we're going to be breaking away soon for our Prime Minister's press conference coming up at 10 o'clock. As it relates to public transportation, who is responsible for removing passengers on public transportation if it's over the limit? And how will you decide which passenger to be
That
taken
is for
off?
the driver. The driver has the responsibility for his load, and so if he's over his limit, the officer would tell him, look, driver, you have 10 passengers, you're supposed to only have 9. I need you to have 9 passengers before you leave from here. It's up to him who he wants to take off and how he get that done. It's not the police place to decide who comes off and who stays on. That is for the driver. The officer gives the instruction to the driver, you have 10 passengers, you need to only have 9, or else you're not going to move from here. It's for him to decide, well, you come on last, so
Yeah, he should know who come on last and who come on first. And
usually that's what they do. The last person to come on, that's the person they would make come off.
I understand. Not to be argumented, to be in, to engage you in an argument or
Yes,
anything
I
like that.
understand. That's okay.
But all people, that can be. I can see that turning out to be
Decide they're not going to move.
some sort of confrontation will develop after that. Are the police advised to use discretion and step in?
Well, of course, if they're going to be a confrontation, of course, the police would not allow that. They would not have that. They prevent that. But it boils down to the driver. He's the one who picked them up in the first place. So the onus is on him to get the person off. And sometimes, a lot of the times, if the person who he asked to come off decide that they're not moving, usually somebody else will say, look, in interest of peace, I'm going to go. We never had a problem where nobody decide to move. Usually one person, even if the person who is asked to move decide they're not leaving, somebody else would, in the interest of peace, would volunteer to give up the seat.
All right, I understand. Confrontational is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, we will not allow
Yes.
the whole thing to break down into a physical confrontation between passengers and drivers, and we will not allow that.
Okay, that is what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then we return. With your permission, Superintendent, we'll open the lines.
Yes.
This morning show is coming to your compliments, National Bank.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
At The Cable, we know being local means supporting our own, and our customers deserve the best. Our customers deserve platinum. So now, all customers of The Cable qualify for our new Platinum Loyalty Card. An elite MasterCard experience that lets you support your own like never before. Instantly send money to any Platinum Loyalty member at home or around the world. Shop online or in person anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Save with no interest and 0 annual fees. And the best part? If you're a Cable customer, you are already pre-approved. Just visit the Cable building in Bastere or sign up online at www.thecable.net. Get Get your Platinum loyalty card today because you deserve Platinum. Terms and conditions apply.
Looking for the best price on your third-party insurance? Well, look no more. The insurance company of the West Indies, ICWI, has the best protection at the best price with no deductible. What are you waiting for? Click, call 465-8753 or visit us at 1C Bird Rock Road or in Nevis number 22 Solomon Arcade, Main Street. Payment options available.
It's time to scratch and match with Digicel. Collect scratch cards when you top up $20 or more at any Digicel reseller or store, or pay your phone or home and internet bill in full. Scratch and match. Get 2 or more of the same digital app and you win a prize. It's that simple. Win cash, credit, vouchers, lunches, spa dates, Digicel merchandise, and more. Plus, take the top half of your scratch cards to any of our retail stores to qualify for even more prizes in the big draw. Stay tuned to our social media pages to find out how to double or even triple your chances to scratch and match. Top up or pay your bill today. Get scratching, get matching. Digicel, better together.
It's Domino's $30 Latch Pizza Special, happening every day at 5 p.m. until closing. Save yourself $8.50 and take advantage of this fantastic deal and get a Latch Pizza for only $30. However, this promotion is only available for 3 flavors: barbecue chicken, cheese, and pepperoni. So what are you waiting for? Come on in and get your Latch Pizza for $30 today.
Wow, call Domino's.
Offer available for carryout only.
All right, welcome back. 20 minutes moving up to the hour. 465-2555. That's 2555. And for those of you on the United States area and Canada, 718-577-2916. Superintendent, over to you in the meantime.
Yes, Superintendent Henry. The lockdown. We're on a lockdown again. Can you enlighten the general public as to when will this lockdown end? Is it likely to come to an end? Or is it going on?
It's a partial lockdown. It's not a full lockdown. We are free to move about most of the day. It's only a curfew between restriction of movement between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. And this will run currently until the 8th of June. 5 a.m. on the 8th of June would be the end of that particular restricted movement order. Whether or not it is extended, that depends on how much under control the situation is, and the CMO, the cabinet will make a determination. So we wait and see what happens, but as of now, the current curfew is expected to end on the 8th of June, barring any extension.
Okay, Superintendent, somebody had asked me earlier, checking my phone, community spread. We presently have some elements of community spread, but the person was asking, how is it that the law enforcement or others would do contact tracing if you're not required to write down your name and phone number when you go into a bus, and when you go to a bar and drink, you're not required to write down your name and phone number and address? How does the contact tracing go with that regard?
Well, with the contact tracing, the Ministry of Health is responsible for the contact tracing, so that might be a question better directed at them. But I think currently what they do, they would ask the person who is infected who was their closest contact, who they came into contact with. So rather than needing to know everybody who was present, they just need to know who was in your immediate surrounding, and so they take it from there. Because usually it's only the persons who you come into direct contact with are at higher risk. So they would deal with the person who the positive person or the target person would have come into close contact with.
Okay. Any?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay. Is there anything anything else you would like to bring to the attention?
Well,
of
yes,
the
we
general
want
public?
to remind persons that the protocols that we have grown accustomed to over the last year, the wearing of masks, we see a significant fall off in persons complying with that particular provision a few weeks ago. But we are seeing now a more concerted effort for persons to wear it. But it's still not as we would like. People are still wearing the mask under their chin.
Under the
I know
chin.
at one point I said to wear it over your eyes. I've not even seen them doing that.
Let's leave that alone. Let's leave that alone. And
So, we have a call?
Yes,
Let's take the
yes,
call.
yes. Good morning. You are live.
Good morning. I was just listening with the inspector was asking about the contact tracing, about writing down of names, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of contradicting. Why some companies doing it and some don't do it? Can explanation be given? But some doing it and some not doing it?
It's the ideal thing to do. But in the absence of that, where we don't have that, then we use the next best thing to rely on the persons identified by the target person.
I mean, but still there's too much inconsistencies, but thanks for the explanation.
All right. As you would say, Superintendent, piggybacking off of that question, is that mandatory? Is it law?
It's a requirement. It's not law, but it's a requirement. It's one of the conditions that is usually given whenever events are allowed.
Okay. Over to you, Superintendent.
Well, I don't have any more questions on the list. Just calls, and because you said we were going to wrap up earlier, I didn't put two more questions.
Oh, okay. Well, if there's anything you want to share, then you can do so.
Yeah, we could still continue to speak about
Yes.
the protocols because we can't say it often enough. There are a number of protocols that are in place for different entities. Bars and restaurants, they have their own set of protocols, and they're all similar. For bars and restaurants, you should practice the physical and social distancing in that your tables must be laid out in a way that they are 6 feet apart. You cannot have the tables jam up and so everybody who is in the bar sit next to each other.
Right.
The tables must be spaced 6 feet apart if you have dining area, and only not more than 8 persons from the same family are allowed at a table.
Okay.
You have a call?
Yes, we do.
Let's take the call.
Good morning. You're live.
Okay, another question, right? Those entities, business places that take in names and telephone numbers, especially government one, can't they get some kind, maybe a little tablet and they record the name instead of you every time you go, you have to be giving your name and giving your telephone number? Suppose I go to the office 3 times for the week, just drawing a reference. 3 times for the week I have to give my name and number. Kind of put in something so when I go the 3rd time, they pull up James Jones and they tick it off, something like that?
Well, I wouldn't be able to answer if they can do it. I'm certain that they would.
Well, you're
they
part
would.
of the NEO, the committee, so you can suggest it to them.
Okay, something we could do.
Yeah,
I'm certainly to be in their best interest to have use technology. I know.
Thank you.
There's a technology that is being worked upon where we'll be using QR codes. You would have a QR code, and you go to the establishment, and they just scan your QR code, and that would register all your details. So there'll be no need for them to have to write down every time you come. You just scan your code, you show your card, scan your code, and registers you as attending the place. So that technology is worked on. But I'm certain as time go along, we'll improve and we'll move away from the paper-based recording of names.
Yes, and Superintendent, as mentioned in QR code, I remember the lockdown previously, sometime before, when individuals would get permission to be on the road, and the police officers would ask them to pull a paper. I think that's not the same now.
Right. We have moved away from that paper-based permission. Last year, as you mentioned, when a person needs permission to be on the street, he has to send an email or send a letter to the commissioner's office, and he would respond, and you get a letter with a list of names. If a company applies for 50 names, the company will get a letter with all 50 names listed. So when you show the police the list, the police have to look to the 50 names to find your name on the list. We have to move away from that. We now have an electronic system where you would apply online, and once your application is approved, each person get an individual e-pass with a QR code and their photo and the details of their permission. And so they would present that to the police on their phone. It's an electronic pass.
Right.
You get it via email. and you show it to the police could either just read off the information on it. If they have doubts, they could scan the QR code. They have scanners that are available. They scan the QR code and get further details on your permission. So we are moving using technology, and I'm certain that the contact, the logging of names, that too would come into line with the technology that are available.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, it's a slow morning for us today, and thankfully it's one of those mornings when it's appreciated because we have...
we don't have the luxury of time.
Yes. So we're going to wrap it up here this morning, but I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and being a part of our programming. Thanks to that call that we receive, I do hope that you are more enlightened, and the suggestion will be taken on board and taken back to the NEOC team, or the Caswell team.
About the logging the names?
Using
tablets?
Yeah.
Yes, that's like I said, we always encourage innovation, and so persons who are currently engaged in logging names manually, it will be their best interest to innovate and come up with some smart technology where you could just log the name. But as I mentioned, a technology is being worked upon where scanning would get you in, and there'll be no need to log.
Right, which will say if you're positive or negative, or you have not been tested on XYZ and so forth and so forth.
It would have the required details that we need.
I tried, Sakits, I tried. Superintendent, in closing?
Well, I don't know if you have anything else to say in closing.
No, well, just to encourage persons to continue to follow the protocols. The CMO has announced that we are now into community spread, which means the virus is out there. We don't know where. We can no longer say that all the persons who have it are in quarantine. We now know that it is out in the community, and the person next to you could be a positive case. So always sanitize, wear your mask, and maintain your physical distance of 6 feet from the person next to you.
Okay, Jikyo, I want to thank yourself for constantly having us here and playing a part of the program. I want to thank the listening public. I want to thank ZZ. I want to support Superintendent Henry's comment and wear your mask and social distance and do your hand sanitizer as often as possible.
Yes, indeed.
Jikyo, see you when I see you.
See you when I see you, and take care, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it locked. Remember, our programming continue with the press conference of our Prime Minister at the top of the hour.
What you know about love? Why all the segregation? All are but one nation. Oh, let us unite as one. Let us unite as one.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more.